Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to our monthly workshop series at MenoWell. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of MenoWell, Menopause Energy and Protein Bars, with our clinical nutritionist, Barb Sobel. I'm going to bring her up right away here. Here we go.
Hi, Julie. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything was frozen for a minute.
My headphones hijacked my audio as usual.
I could
Forgot to
see your
turn those
lips
off.
moving, but nothing was, yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of MenoWell, Menopause Energy Bars, Hi, Cynthia. So glad you're here. Here we are, Food Family. I hope you can hear us now. We've got audio. Obviously, I'm a little rusty coming back from the holidays. So super glad to have Barb and her cute new haircut here, our clinical nutritionist, talking about mastering fat loss, because we know we don't want to lose weight. We just want to lose fat, because when we just lose weight, we lose muscle too. And we need to keep that. Hey there, what's next, girl? Trey, good to see you. Hi, Jenny. But I just want to, before we get started, I just want to send some big love out to Barb's family that is dealing with being displaced in the Palisades. So Barb, so sorry.
Thank you.
So sorry.
They're all safe.
You want to just...
Yeah. Everything's good. Yeah.
Everybody's safe. Parents and in-laws and brothers. So
Sure.
hard times here in California,
Yeah.
but we're all holding it down. So anyway, thank you for being here, Barb.
Yeah.
Barb, you wrote a great blog post, which we have at mymenowell.com and Barb Sobel
Just
Nutrition.
barbsobel.com.
barbsobel.com, on mindfulness and eating. And so we know that we can master weight loss when we're mindful. It's a tool that we don't think about and pull out. Oh, sorry, we had somebody else who had their family evacuated. Yeah. So hard time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I love about mindful eating is it's with you all the time. And it's like this thing, if you remember it, you can pull it out of your back pocket and you can take it with you wherever you are. And it's not something that people know you're doing. You can do it anywhere, anytime, and it fits with any diet that you're following, right? If you are just trying to limit processed foods, add in new foods, you're dealing with taking some inflammatory foods out of your diet and experimenting, it works with that. It doesn't matter what your preferences are. You can do it with food, with liquid, it's great. So let's get into it.
That's a good point. It's kind of like Kegels, right? You can just do them.
Yeah, exactly.
No one knows you're doing it. You're being mindful. You can get your pelvis right and your food right at the same time, secretly, like boom, boom. Habit stacking.
That's a lot to be thinking about. I just want to say that.
Okay. Leave it to me to throw that in there. But Barb, okay, so in your blog post that people can find at barbsobel.com,
yeah,
or at mymenowell.com, you talk about 4 things. I have it over my shoulder here about mindfulness, really these principles. So should we just jump into the first one, which is when we're mindful and we're wanting to lose fat or just be more mindful about our food, it, number 1, improves digestion. Right. Tell us more about that.
Many of us in midlife notice we get more bloated when we eat things and it's uncomfortable, right? But just when we chew our food well, we eat slowly, we really digest our food better. And we don't have these giant chunks coming into our stomach that our stomach then has to process. Mindful eating really any eating or digestion starts in our mouth. So the more we can chew our food, the more we can eat in that relaxed state, it helps support our digestion. So then we
Mm.
don't necessarily feel as bloated. I mean, not always, but it's a good first step. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I learned, let's see. Hi, Angela. Hi, Christine. I really noticed, I mean, I learned how to eat fast when I had my
Yeah.
kids, and my kids were little. You know, you had to eat fast or you were not going to eat
Right.
because somebody was getting down from a high chair or having to go here or there. So let me just eat this really quickly. And then I noticed I don't need to eat fast anymore. I can slow down, because then my brain wouldn't catch up with me anyway. And then I'm eating is more than what I wanted to
Yeah.
eat. And then all of a sudden I feel, oh, now I feel full, but I didn't wait long enough to get the
Right. So
signal because I just
and I
wolfed
think
it
that's sort
down.
of the second piece of it is that, you know, it takes a little while for the message from our stomach that we've had enough food to get to our brain. And if we're just powering through that, we miss it, then all of a sudden we're too full. Right.
Yeah.
And that leads into how we can prevent overeating. And, you know, if we really eat when we're truly hungry and we stop when we've had enough, not when we're over full or stuffed or had too much, that naturally cuts down the amount of calories we're eating, like no matter what, right? It just cuts it down.
Just cuts
Yeah.
it down. That's an easy
Yeah.
hack. You know, one thing I've noticed lately, and if anyone's here, let me know if you've noticed this too, or you have a different habit, that if I'm getting food and I'm bringing it back to my office in here, that I will take a bite or two on the way.
Yeah.
And, it's just this habit of like starting to eat before I actually land in my seat and get conscious. And then I've eaten some of it and then I'm mad because it's gone.
Right. Right. But you didn't
And
even like register that you were eating those bites, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. It's just a habit. So I'm trying to be mindful about that and not and conscious. Don't eat before
Yeah.
I'm in my seat. You know,
Yeah.
that's it. I just
And
made
you
that
know
up.
what?
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
going
those
with.
calories at the sink or in the hallway or wherever you're eating, they still count,
Up the
right?
stairs.
Yeah, exactly. They still count.
They count.
Right.
Yeah,
And not
dang
that
it.
we shouldn't taste something when we're cooking it to see what it's like, but if we can really take our bites and you know that we're eating and pay attention, makes a really big
Yeah.
difference.
Save those calories for
Or
something
something that
else
you
that you
want.
want. Um,
Yeah, right?
for something you
Yeah,
want. Health coach Angela says, I take a deep breath and be grateful for the food in front of me. Then I
that's
start
right.
eating. No
Yeah,
distraction during the
yeah,
meal. That is
yeah.
excellent. Not on the stairs, you know, on the way up to the office
Yeah,
or
you know, one thing I
whatever.
want to add when you take a deep breath, you really smell your food. And sometimes our
Mm,
food smells, you know, think of the cinnamon bun place in the airport, right? You can smell that everywhere. But our
thanks,
food
Barb.
has smell. And as soon as we smell that, our body starts making digestive enzymes. It's getting messages, oh, food is coming. And taking that minute that just to be grateful, which helps reset our nervous system, and then taking that moment to smell our food really turns on our body and getting ready for digestion. It's a really great habit.
Mm,
That, yeah.
really good.
Thanks for
I
sharing,
love that.
Angela.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about point number 2 in the article, in the blog post.
You say this like
Prevents
it's fast.
overeating.
Here it is, right?
Here it is. Slow your roll. Be conscious because we're eating twice as much often.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so now, you know, it's January, so I'm being extra mindful of my portions. I'm really being committed to tracking just so I can, what am I actually consuming? And when I measure out like a half a cup of something, I'm like, that's not
Right.
very much. Like, I really want more than that. But if I'm mindful, it's actually
Right.
enough. It's usually enough, especially if it's high protein, some good fats in there, you know, like let's just say cottage
Right.
cheese. Like, that's
Yeah.
enough, even though I think I want a whole cup. I really don't. So when I slow down and I'm mindful about it, that saves me a half a cup's worth of calories on that thing that I thought I wanted the whole
Right.
thing.
And you know, when
Makes
you eat
sense?
slowly, you can take that little bit, that you know, quarter cup, whatever. And if you finish it and you're still hungry, then you could go and have some more, right? But if you just put, so many of us have trained ourselves in kind of a around diets, and this is the serving size. And that might not be the right serving size for you on that day, right? If
Right.
your exercise that day is going for a short walk or doing some stretching, or it's a kind of a catch-up day or a more relaxing day, you might not need as many calories as if you're
Right.
going out on a big bike ride or doing a big hike or something like that. And
Yeah.
when we take that smaller portion, we eat it mindfully, it puts in a pause. And then we can really check in with our body and find out if we need more or if we're at a good amount.
I love that. That the pause, right? We
Right.
can all
The
remember the
pause,
pause.
the pause and
Right.
pause.
The pause in pause when we're eating, because there's so many things to distract us also. I'm going to make sure, okay, I don't say something ahead that we're going to say, but, being
Yeah.
on our phones, watching, listening, scrolling while you're eating, and next thing you know, it's gone. You're not conscious. There's no pause there. You're not really thinking about it.
Right.
And then you still want to eat more because psychologically you feel like you didn't
Right.
eat anything because you didn't
Yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things is, especially if we're being conscious about our weight and we look at our portion and think it's not enough, you get that idea of scarcity. And when we really focus in on what our food tastes like, it's so much more satisfying.
Yes.
And I can see that box behind you of the chocolate brownie bars. And when I eat them really slowly and mindfully, I can taste the salt a little bit. When I just, kind of eat it because I'm in a hurry, I don't taste that salt at all. And it's a really big difference.
Yeah. And
And
it's an
yeah,
enjoyable
I like
thing.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I know what you're saying. Plus, then I feel like, where did it go? I did that actually, true confessions, with
Yeah.
peanut butter yesterday. So now that it's a little cold outside, I like to put them in the microwave for about 10 seconds. And they get a little soft, a little squishy, especially the peanut butter and chocolate. It was so good. I just like, and then I was like, I wanted another one. I'm like, no,
Right.
no, no.
No,
The fiber will get you. So
exactly.
anyway, so stop. Fiber is good, but you don't want to be unstoppable,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it
really,
does
so
really
just
help put the
the
brakes
pause.
on things. But it also helps you really enjoy the flavor of your food. So then you don't feel that same scarcity, that same
Yeah.
like you're missing out, you're not getting enough. Um,
You feel
yeah.
satisfied.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
what it's really about.
We didn't, I don't think we covered this in the article in the blog, but I really have committed to using my special
Hmm.
plates. And I don't mean like the holiday things. I don't mean that. Like the plates I choose for myself. I'm also a big bowl girl. I love eating out of a bowl, but I have my bowls and my plates because my guys,
The,
they want to use a
the
big
big
thing,
size.
and I
Yeah.
like a small thing that fits my eating goals. And so I really try to be conscious of putting the food that I want in the container that I want,
Yeah.
and not just throwing it on a paper plate, which I used to do that, which is not good for the environment anyway. And so having like the whole thing, try to be more thoughtful
Right.
about
I
it.
mean, we all like going to a nice restaurant, right? They take
Yeah.
care of you, they plate it beautifully, they might even have flowers on the table. All of that makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also the size of the plate look makes a big difference. So if you were to put your, whatever, your little quarter of a cup of cottage cheese on a big giant plate, it's going to look like nothing. If you put it in a cute little bowl, it's going to be full.
Right.
So, and that, our brains see half empty and half full, and we like half full.
I like how
So that it
cool.
makes a difference. Dinner plates have gotten bigger over time, and I find that lunch plates are a great option.
I didn't know there was such
Yeah,
a
they're
thing as a lunch
smaller.
plate. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gotta get
All
you
right.
over when we do the pantry clean out.
Yeah.
We'll eat on lunch
Yeah.
plates.
Lunch plate.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do that. I forgot about that. We're going to do
Yeah.
that, right, Barb?
It's
The
scary.
pantry going, your
Yeah.
herbs. Somebody else asked me about that. When are you doing the herb show with Barb? So we'll do that. So yeah, having a special plate, it's also a beautiful conscious signal to ourselves that, oh, we're eating, we are not just grab and go, although there's a time and a place for that, being mindful about grabbing and going. But having a special plate.
Yeah.
So just one more
I mean,
thing.
for
I like
me,
it.
if I can, if the weather permits it, I love eating lunch, especially outside. It it changes the environment. It's more relaxing. You see birds and whatever
Yeah.
is going on, and that makes a really big difference too. Sometimes just
Yeah.
changing where you eat.
Yes, we're fortunate. We've had beautiful weather
Yeah.
here in Northern California, and I've been doing that this
Yeah.
week too. And trying to not bring my phone with me when I go.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
painful, but
We're
it's
so
worth
used to
it.
it. We're so used to
Like,
it.
where's my other arm? I'm missing something, But that way I can just slow
Yeah.
down, enjoy what I have, enjoy what I'm eating that cottage cheese and blueberries and carrots and apple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
it
say,
tastes better when you pay attention to it. I mean,
mm-hmm.
we think we like certain things and we think we don't like certain things. And it turns out when we really taste them, we often like a lot more of them. As we break things down, they tend to get a little sweeter. And
Yeah,
we tend to
I
like
love
that.
that.
So, yeah.
It's worth
Yeah.
it. It's worth
Yeah.
it. Okay, number 3, when you eat mindfully and you're working on fat loss, it reduces
Yeah.
stress. Tell us
I mean,
about that.
we're calmer, right? And we can use that opportunity to be in the moment. And anytime we do that, we're reducing stress because we're not
Mm,
thinking ahead. We're not thinking about what happened before, what's going to happen. We're just in that moment. And what's fun about mindful eating is that it can be very physical. So you can look what it's like to cut your food, to feel what it's like in your mouth as you chew it. And all of that brings you back into the moment.
mm,
So, we get stressed and our cortisol rises when we're thinking about what happened in the past or we're catastrophizing what's going to happen in the future.
right.
And when we're in that present moment, that's when we can relax.
I love that. And eating can be
Yeah,
stressful also, especially as we are more conscious about having more protein and having more fiber. At least your 100 grams of protein and 25 to 30 grams of fiber. That can create a stress outside of
yeah.
work,
And
life, family, blah blah
especially if
blah.
we go to sort of the next step and identify certain foods as good as certain foods as bad, that gets
Mm-hmm.
really stressful.
Mm-hmm. Where of course we want to eat less sugar. Are we going into the next one now? We want to eat less sugar and things like that, but there's no foods that are evil.
Right.
That's what
I
I
mean,
would say.
unless you're
There's
going to
just
have an
some foods,
anaphylactic reaction,
right,
right?
except
Yeah.
that. But there's certain foods that we want to eat a lot less of.
Right.
Um, but we wrap the stories in, that we tell ourselves about food that we just, especially women, we just are paralyzed about what to eat, how to eat, when to eat. And I think it just creates a whole additional layer of stress that we don't need to deal with,
Right.
really.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so something I'm doing this week, Barb, I do all these weird food
Yes.
things because that's me. Um, I am just eating pretty much the same thing the whole week, I
That's what you
decided.
do all the time.
Oh, don't tell everybody I do that all the time. But it's the truth because I did not want to think. I knew that, this week being the first kind of business week back of the year, back to back meetings, getting ready for more travel. We have new production, new
Yeah.
inventory, da 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 da. We're sold out of chocolate. Getting all those things handled. I didn't want to think about food.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about clothes. I didn't want to think
And
about food.
so if
So
you
laid
really
out
want to think
things.
about it, prep ahead, right? And
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Angela just said, keep it simple. right?
Yes,
You know
I
what
think so.
works for you. And if you have it prepped, that's what you're going to eat. If you don't have it prepped and you haven't thought about it, that's when things go off the rack because we get hungry and then we go for whatever is close.
Start rummaging or eating. For me, if I'm not prepared, then I get tempted by some of the things that my husband has in the house
Yeah. Yeah. That
that
can
I
happen a
don't want
lot.
to
Yeah.
eat, right? They're not going to hurt me, but I don't want to eat that.
Right. And it's
So,
not if what you want to choose. Right.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So, being mindfully prepared, thinking about it, and then making sure I have it delivered, because that's just my way of not running around getting
Right.
things. Then I know I'm good for the week and I can just keep it simple and I just eat the same thing and I can just move on. And that level of mindfulness helps me when I'm not
Right.
mindful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's a system, really.
Yeah. It's a system.
Hmm.
And next week we'll get you eating some new things.
Okay. Well, I'm traveling next week. I'm going to be in Los Angeles next week, I think, and I'm already thinking ahead, like, maybe I'll just swing by Trader Joe's
Yeah.
to make sure I have some of the same things because I want to continue
Yeah.
to be mindful
I
and
mean,
not
I think that's
get all
great.
out of whack, because we should talk about that too. When you're traveling or eating in restaurants, how do you stay mindful when you're not in your own controlled
Yeah.
environment, Barb?
That's a
What
great
thoughts?
question. So when I think there's sort of two sides of it. There's the inner side. How do we stay mindful? I think, taking a breath when you sit down and when you get your food and really looking at it, tasting it, enjoying it. One of the really practical things you can do is put your fork down with every bite. It naturally slows you down. It looks like you have really good manners. No one knows what you're doing, right? You're not
Shuffling
going like
away,
this,
yeah.
right? But you're just relaxed. You can listen to a conversation, you can talk to
Mm.
someone, and you just have really good manners. So that's one way, sort of mindfully in yourself, right? And then, on the outside, what, or looking to sort of outside of yourself, if you know you're going to a restaurant, look at the menu ahead of time. What are
Mm.
some things that would be good choices? You can always ask about their specials. I like to go into a restaurant knowing, sort of in the back of my mind, this is my backup, and I can always change what I want to have. Um, but I can consciously think like, oh, I didn't have enough vegetables today. I'm going to make sure to get an appetizer or a salad or get extra vegetables on the side of my main dish because when I think about my day, it kind of skimped at lunch or whatever. Or I need to make sure to get some good protein. So I'm going to ask about the fish or, whatever. And kind of coming into that with some consciousness about the decisions you're going to make and some information. What do they have? What's going to work for you? Things like that.
Yeah, I love that, especially looking at menus ahead of time, because it can be so exciting, to go to a
Yeah,
menu, to a restaurant, and you don't know what's there. And there's so many things on the menu that you can really go sideways or make a mindful, conscious decision that I am going to have the
right.
burrata today.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and then, so I like that too. That's the other side of mindfulness, right? Is making a conscious decision to eat something that maybe is outside of what your regular eating plan
Right.
is
Right.
for this
And
meal.
certainly at restaurants where they have big portions, you can take half of it home for the next
Yeah,
day and get to enjoy it all over again if you want, right?
right, right. You can have the rest for dinner or the
Exactly.
next,
Yeah.
or breakfast, dinner for breakfast the next
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a question. What are your thoughts on phytoestrogens when estrogen is
Yeah, I
low?
think they
Ooh,
can be helpful. So
big one.
phytoestrogens are plant compounds that act like estrogens. So we think of soy, flax, some of those. I think they can be really helpful, and certainly part of your overall plan. If they're enough for you, great. If they're not enough for you, you might need to look at some additional estrogens. But certainly in perimenopause, they can make a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
I know soy can be controversial. We've made a conscious decision not to have it in
Yeah, a
our
lot of
bars.
people are
Um,
reactive to it. And so as long as it works for you, right?
right. I do like edamame though.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people do better with more of a fermented soy. So
Mm,
like a tofu type of thing. Some people are
mhm.
fine with edamame. It just depends on how your body reacts.
Yeah.
And usually people
It's like all
know.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try and see if you like it. See if it feels right for your
Yeah.
body. Because we're all different.
We're
We're
all
all different.
different. Yeah.
Okay, number 4, practicing mindful eating as a part of a fat loss or just way of being is it enhances our relationship with food. I
Yeah.
love
We
that because
kind of,
that's where the we should have started there,
I
Barb, because
know.
honestly, that's the foundation.
It's sort of, we talked about this a little bit, that foods aren't necessarily good or bad, right? And if we've been dieting for a long time, we tend to assign things good or bad, right? Like, I don't know, bread or whatever. And when we mindfully eat, we can let go of that a little bit,
Mm,
because first of all, we pay attention to how every food feels in our body, right? So we know maybe, I don't know, too much popcorn, not so good for your digestion, right? Or maybe a little too much for you, but tastes good. So we can make better, more conscious decisions about how the food tastes in our body, and then also how we think about it. So it's not so stressful.
yeah, that's really important because we use food for so many things other than
Right,
fuel.
right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
this is a conversation I have with my husband all the time. We both grew up with parents that are Californians, but everybody else is from the South, from Louisiana, where food is
Yeah,
love. And so being raised where food is just an emotional part of who we are, even though, my family, my mom cooked, very wonderful dinners, and my husband had a different experience with, with more from outside the home kind of thing.
yeah,
But it's still, it was just a lot. There was just so much around the emotion, the family, the circle,
right.
the community
And we look
around
for
food.
food too. So many of us learn that food is comfort, right? It's an
Yeah,
easy way to
right.
comfort ourselves. And I think, one of the ways we can be mindful is noticing, when are we turning to food? Are we turning to something sweet in the evening as we watch TV, because that's our downtime? Noticing, are we really hungry, or is it something else driving us to eat? And then once we have that consciousness, we can make other options available, right?
I love
Yeah.
that. And it's I heard this the other day about, having two things. One, what is the feeling when we're reaching for
Yeah.
something? I tend to reach for things I like. I love butter. I have a butter problem. I love and butter on sourdough, because here we are in the San
Right.
Francisco Bay Area. We have the very best
Yeah.
sourdough, right? And so I know I shouldn't really have it in the refrigerator, but I love it. And if I'm going to eat bread, then I'm going to mostly eat it sourdough bread. And so, what is the feeling that I really am having,
Yeah.
instead of, because I'm probably not hungry if I want a piece of sourdough bread.
Right. And
That's
is
just an
it,
indicator.
if it's not hunger and you can play with some things, is it hungry enough that you would eat a can of plain tuna fish? Probably not, right? It's not everyone's favorite,
No,
right? Like, or
that's a
maybe
hard
like an
no.
apple or something. I mean, you can pick something that tastes better than that, but
Yes.
you have to be really, do you feel actual hunger? If you
Right.
don't feel hunger, babies don't eat when they're not hungry. Somewhere along the line, we learned to eat when we were not hungry.
Yeah.
And we eat for all these other reasons. But if we can pare that back down and just focus on eating nourishing food when we're hungry and eating it slowly and chewing it well, we would have we would all be much better off,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. in so many
And
reasons.
we will support our fat loss goals without having to do anything with it, without having
Right.
to take any extra
Exactly.
steps.
Exactly. We would get,
Right.
we can get down to more of a natural weight much easier.
Yes.
Right.
I love that. And that's a really beautiful phrase, natural weight. And I think in some ways we forget, like we don't even know what our natural weight is
Right.
anymore because of how we consume, from the what we consume and then how we consume it so quickly. So without being conscious, we don't even know what our
Right. And
natural
I
weight is
think
anymore.
we need
So
to keep everyone is different. We're all different sizes, right? And what we weighed in high school might not be our natural weight in midlife, but we can still be strong and right and keep our fat to a minimum or in a healthy level, right?
right, and be conscious of visceral fat. Right.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, what we want is a high quality life with longevity, all as long as we
yeah,
can. And we know, real talk, heart disease is the number one killer of women. So the reason why we have these conversations every week, why we talk about menopause and nutrition and fat loss, is because of visceral
yeah.
fat, right? We want
That
to
and
make
that's the fat
sure
around the
that
belly.
that's around the belly, and that's the kind of fat that is not good for our organs, and that increases our risk for a cardiac
Right.
event,
And diabetes.
heart attack, stroke, and diabetes, which leads to all other
Yeah.
things that we don't want. And so, and quality of life and shortening of life. So that's why, yes, we want to, I would say you want to look good in your skinny jeans, which I'm not actually wearing
I
skinny jeans
know.
anymore. I'm wearing wide leg jeans. They're really good. But still leggings, look better naked, all
All the
of the
things. Yeah.
things. That's fun. That is a fun, wonderful byproduct of health, and making sure our hip to waist ratio is I'm just drew a blank. I
Yeah.
think it's 0.7,
Yeah.
0.8. And because that is all an indicator of how we might live longer with a higher
Right.
quality of life. And so that's what being mindful, being at whatever our natural weight is, keeping our
And there's a
body
range
fat
for everyone,
percentage.
right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, it is not one
Yes.
number on the scale. And I think that,
Not one
you know,
number. It's not one number, but we always like to say you got to keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is to keep our visceral fat
right.
low, because that is a
And
huge
our muscle
indicator
up,
of,
right?
and our
Yeah.
muscles up. That's why we're eating that dang cottage cheese all the time. And tuna. Tuna. Exactly.
Right?
Barb, I always love our monthly workshops because we get to kind of go a little deeper on these things. And I love all the comments from everybody. Thank you for being here. And share this with somebody who needs to just maybe be more mindful or is looking for an approach to managing their weight loss, fat loss journey in 2025 with a way that doesn't feel punitive.
Right.
It
And
just feels
what
actually delicious.
this is a practice, and no one's perfect at it. We all mess up. Starting really small, maybe pick a meal that you want to practice your first two bites mindfully and
Mm,
build up your skill with practice. It's a practice, and sometimes we're going to nail it, and sometimes it's going to be a really hard day and we're gonna forget it, right?
yeah.
But we can,
Like, oh,
but we do carry the skill with us everywhere, and we can keep practicing, and it really makes a difference.
so good. And just to, if anyone's just hopping on, the tools you said were to
Right?
pause. That's one of them. Pause before you eat.
Yeah.
Smell your food.
Chew
That's
your food really, really
chew your
well.
food.
Chew, chew, chew. Now you can't chew cottage cheese that well, but if your carrots and apples, chew your meat, that chew it and notice,
Chew it.
what does it feel
Chew it.
like? Does the flavor change in your
Mm,
mouth? Um, so chewing can make a really big difference. And then honoring, checking in with yourself. Are you actually hungry? And then checking in with yourself maybe halfway through your plate. How satisfied are you? Are you still hungry? If you are, eat and then pause again and check in. And if you're not hungry, it's okay to leave it and,
Yeah.
eat
And
that later.
take and pack it up for later,
Yeah.
whether it's at home or in a restaurant. I think sometimes people don't want to take things from a restaurant, like, oh, I don't want to put it like you buy
Right.
it, just take it and
And now
have
you
it
don't have to
later.
cook it again. So, yeah, and I get it. Some things like don't taste as good reheated. That's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but a lot
But
of things do.
especially if you add some
Yeah,
eggs to them or whatever. I mean, you can get creative, right? So
I know. And you can extend things really well with like a little cooked spinach or, right?
yes, add it to a salad. Maybe, there's so many
Yeah,
things that you can do with leftovers. So especially if it's
yeah.
protein, bring it home.
Bring it
Bring it
home.
home.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, Barb, tell everybody where they can read the blog on your site
Yep,
again.
it's barbsobel.com under the blog section. And this is about mindful eating. Um, so come get it, read
Yeah.
it, practice it, reach out to me with questions.
Yes. And if you're looking for somebody to help you on your journey, then reach out to Barb. You will not regret it. We're lucky at MenoWell because we get to interact with Barb every day. And but she's there for you too. So make
Thank
sure
you.
you reach out.
Yeah.
Yes, add her to your success team. All right,
Have a
everybody.
good one.
If we were doing this on Monday, I would say happy Mindful Monday, but it's Thursday. So happy Mindful Thursday heading into the weekend. Take mindfulness with you to practice
Awesome.
all weekend.
Thank you,
Yes.
Julie.
Okay. Be
You too.
well.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye, everybody.